So we've brought up the concept of trackers, SSL certificates, and just to, again, kind of come back to our common way of visualizing this information, if we look at the response and document object model that we're collecting from our virtual users, we start with that DOM, and then we're able to pull out the trackers through rules and other unique combinations of how we get that data. And then from that, we can identify other domains that are leveraging that same tracker. Maybe it's a Google Analytics ID, a New Relic ID, Mixpanel, etc. On the SSL certificate side, we got that two-pronged approach. One, we have the certificate concept, the certificate facets, if you will, the contents of the certificate, and we could use that to identify other SHA-1s or certificates associated with the particular facet. And then we have the infrastructure side of it, identifying the IP addresses in which the certificates were hosted on, and then using maybe another data set like PassiveDNS to run to get all the different domains that were ever associated with those IPs.
And enrich that information to give you a complete view.
Yeah, so just, again, keeping in mind here, like with the infrastructure chaining concept, being able to put these different data sets together, and we're showing very small examples here, but the infrastructure chain could be massive. I mean, it could be highly connected, and it would just be a massive block of connections and a ball of yarn. So again, increased visibility that we have with these data sets. With the case of host pairs, we're looking at links, sequential data, and the dependent requests that we spoke about earlier when our virtual users are fetching a web page and observing what happens when it dynamically runs.
What's coming in and what's going out to a domain, for example.
Correct. And so from that information, we derive that host pair, the parent and the child, the calls between them, and using that information, we're able to make connections from one domain to another because of the dynamic nature we observed when our virtual users ran the crawl.
So if malware is being brought into that website and rendering on that person's machine, you'll see that request coming in, and you'll be able to link it together to show that relationship.
That's correct.
That you normally wouldn't be able to see if you just looked at the source, for example, on the page. You might not see that.
That's correct.